This entry is a record of a sound that, once heard, can never be forgotten. Our investigation begins in a landscape of profound silence. The year is 1847. The location is County Cork, Ireland. This is the year history will remember as Black 47, the nadir of the Great Famine. The silence that blankets the land is not of peace, but of absence. It is the silence of empty fields, blighted and black with potato rot. The silence of empty hearths, the peat fires long since extinguished. And it is the silence of a populace too weakened by hunger to work, to celebrate, or even to weep. But into this silence, another sound intrudes. It is a sound that carries across the barren hills and bogs, a sound that slips through the cracks of cottage doors and chills the very marrow of those huddled within. It is an auditory phenomenon of the most terrifying kind, a high, piercing wail, thin and unspeakably sorrowful. This is the keening, the keening. It is not the cry of a wolf, nor the shriek of the wind. It is the sound of grief, so pure and so powerful that it has become a physical force, an omen that paralyzes the starving populace with fear that transcends even the gnawing emptiness in their stomachs. For the people of this land know that this is not a random sound. It is herald, it is a summons, it is the cry of the Banshee, and it means that death, already a constant companion, is now standing at a specific door. To understand the Banshee is to misunderstand her if one classifies her as a mere ghost. She is not the lingering spirit of a single deceased individual bound to a specific location. She is something far older, something more integral to the fabric of the land and its people. She is the Bhean Sí, the woman of the Fairy Mound, a solitary spirit from the Otherworld, the realm of the Aes Her appearance is not a random haunting. It is a matter of lineage, an ancient and unbreakable bond forged with specific families of ancient Gaelic stock. The archives are clear. The Banshee does not wail for just anyone. Her lament is reserved exclusively for the great ancestral families of Ireland, those whose surnames bear the O and Mac prefixes, the O'Sullivans, the O'Donnells, the McCarthys, the O'Neills. This is not a curse in the traditional sense, but his supernatural birthright. To be of a family attended by a Banshee was once a mark of nobility, a sign that your bloodline was so ancient, so pure, that even the spirit world was tasked with marking its passage. This ancestral bond is absolute. When a member of one of these families emigrates, the Banshee's cry is not silenced by distance. Testimonies report the wail being heard by relatives thousands of miles away in the Americas or Australia, a spectrum message that transcends oceans, announcing a death back in the old country. In this, the Banshee is not an aggressor. She is a herald, a supernatural chronicler of a family's history,
Her lament the final, sorrowful entry in the chapter of a life. She does not call death. She is simply the first to mourn it, a front-row witness to the severing of an ancient bloodline from the world of the living.
Our archives contain a specific, harrowing case file from the epicenter of the Great Famine, a testimony from a survivor concerning the O'Sullivan family of County Cork, dated late 1847. The account belongs to a neighbor who witnessed the events. The head of the family, Seamus O'Sullivan, was a man from a proud line, now reduced to a tenant farmer, watching his family starve. One evening, returning home with nothing but a few meager roots dug from the frozen ground, Seamus stopped by the river that bordered his land. It was there, in the deepening twilight, that he first heard it. It began as a low, mournful sigh that seemed to come from the stones of the riverbed itself, then rose into a high, clear, and utterly desolate wail. The neighbor's testimony is clear on this point. Seamus did not panic or flee in terror. Instead, he simply stopped, his shoulders slumping, and a look of absolute resigned despair crossed his face. He recognized the cry. He knew its timbre, its cadence. It was his grandfather had described hearing before his own father had passed. It was their Banshee. He returned to his small, one-roomed cottage, not with fear, but with a grim certainty. Inside, his wife was tending to their youngest child, a 7-year-old daughter named Aoife, who had been battling a fever for 3 days, a common affliction in a body racked by malnutrition. The child was weak, but stable. Yet when Seamus looked at his wife, he did not need to speak. She saw the look in his eyes, and she knew. The lament of the Banshee was not an opinion. It was a verdict.
The family did not attempt to fight the inevitable. They did not pray for a miracle. The omen had been delivered. Their role, as they understood it, was to accept it. They gathered around the small cot where Aoife lay. The Banshee's cry continued throughout the night, a constant sorrowful vigil just outside their cottage walls. By morning, as the first weak light of the winter sun touched the land, the wailing ceased. Inside the cottage, the child had died. The Banshee had fulfilled her duty. The case of the Banshee presents a unique challenge to our classifications. She is not a monster in the conventional sense. She does not kill, she does not haunt, she does not seek revenge. Instead, she functions as a personification of grief itself, an entity so ancient and so deeply tied to the land that her existence is an accepted, albeit terrifying, part of life and death. During the mass death event of the Great Famine, her role would have been magnified to a horrifying degree. For the ancient families of Ireland, her crying would have become a near-constant feature of the landscape, the air itself saturated with her sorrow. She would not have been a rare omen, but the very soundtrack to a national catastrophe, a supernatural constant in a world of unimaginable loss and chaos. She is the lament of the land itself, a spectral witness to the suffering of the bloodlines she is sworn to watch over. Her tragedy is that she is cursed to see the end of every story, to mourn every loss, but is powerless to prevent
not a single one. Is a warning of an inevitable tragedy, a kindness, or a cruelty?